Hi guys, welcome to the channel. It's a pleasure to welcome you again at my channel. It's so nice to see you all. I'll wait for the list to populate a little bit. Um, I'm talking about a subject that's very broad and quite open-ended. So because of that, I will try to rein everything in right about around maybe half an hour, 30 minutes. I'm doing this video for my friend Rolly Mania. Um, Very happy to do it. He was one of those who took advantage of my promotion, my self-promotion, which means that you can send me any sorts of questions and requests with my email address, lordhellespontv@gmail.com, which is also connected to my PayPal, of course. But until the end of the month, and there's still 4 days, we have something going on that you can take advantage of. You can send me any questions and requests to this email address, lordhellespontv@gmail.com, and I'll respond to you there. And if you think it's the right format, I will also make a video for you, run a live stream for you where, if you prefer, you can be part of the conversation as well. So Rolling Mania took advantage of that. And today we're going to talk about vintage and neo-vintage Submariners. I'm waiting for that. My vintage Submariner, the 4-digit two-liner, 5513 from 1968. As he does about a lot of the aesthetic issues with some of these watches, Oshin has his finger on the pulse when he says there's almost a bigger divide between people who are crazy about Submariners without a date function and the Submariner date guys. And I feel very strongly about this, even though I try to restrain myself and try to look normal as I usually do. So I'll focus a little bit about that and a little bit about what not necessarily why I prefer two liners, but I think Rolling Mania also kind of naturally tends towards two liners. So this will be about no date Submariners, and so we'll be talking about 5513. We'll be talking about 14060 and 14060M. Rolling Mania is here. Lens Thruster is here. Chili Badger is here. I'm very happy to see all of you. Welcome to the channel again. And, talking about these models, 5513, which had a very long range of production, and 14060, Wristwatchaholic, good morning, my man. In another world, in an alternative universe, I could have told you, get out there, just grab one. It won't hurt much, naked, watch head only. Just a few years back, you could basically get 14060 watch head only for around 4.5K. Not long before that, 5513s after 1984 were more or less the same. We don't live in that world anymore, unfortunately. So we need to make more informed, wiser decisions after taking our time, because those kinds of deals are no more, and they're not coming back in the foreseeable future. Now we live in a world where on a full bracelet, a 14060 these days easily sells for 10K USD. You can get better deals, of course, but that's where they have come. 5513, when it's before 1984, plastic, matte dial, um, tritium, loom, you're talking about 18K, 20K and up, and the sky's the limit, right? When it comes to certain versions of the maxi dial and meters first, and full riveted bracelet, that really the sky is the limit. So we're in a different market now, and my primary advice will be uh, always to first think seriously and honestly about your budget. Let's start there, because if you can spend up to $10,000, we're talking about 14060 in good condition. Perhaps you can find it with papers. Hopefully, you'll find it with the full bracelet. But even the 14060M, which is only a slight difference, right, comes with a modified movement. That's what the M stands for there. I think with a full balance bridge and a larger balance wheel. So it's not something that makes such a radical difference. So even with those, there's a slight premium, and those also go all the way into when they have the COSC certification on the dial, which makes them a four-liner, and get that engraved Riho that has become very commonplace with contemporary Rolexes. If you have up to 15K USD, we can probably start thinking about 5513s after 1984, which will have the glossy dial, which will have the white gold surrounds on the watch face around the loom, while still preserving the tritium loom, while still preserving, that is, certain aspects of being a vintage watch. And if you have, up to 20K or more, that's a different world, right? Then you're looking at 4-digit Submariners, especially 5513, and you can pick and choose depending on what you like aesthetically and what you would want. And that's the next question I want to address: aesthetics versus utility, right? If you're strictly utilitarian and you want a minimalist sub, and you have decided for one reason or another that the contemporary models are not for you, either because they are unavailable at any rate, or you haven't really fallen in love with them for one reason or another, then I will continue beating this dead horse in a way. There is a sweet spot, right around year 2000, which brings us here to 14060, where you can get a Rolex sports watch with a decent bracelet, solid end links. You can still have the Halls case. Good afternoon, Jamie. Nub Gunner, hey, nice to see you, my man. He thought I was just joking, but last time when I finally saw Nub Gunner on the camera with his majestic beard and Sea Dweller 43, that's a Rolex man for me. I do aspire to that level of coolness. Speaking of which, yes, I think Chili Badger approves, right? Gotta say, for me, the Sea Dweller is a better fit and less common. Not that I meet many other people sporting a Rolex. I cannot agree more when it comes to the contemporary line. That's why we are talking about, vintage and neo-vintage. Joe Farmer is here. Nice to see you, my man. So rolling back the tape, around the year 2000, you can get a very, very nice 5-digit Submariner, two-liner, 14060. I think it has to be an M in this case, right? Because I think 14060 gets its new movement right around year 98, 99. So it will be a 14060M with the modified movement with a solid end link bracelet. You will get the Luminova at that time, so your loom will be functional. That's the sweet spot for you as a utilitarian. Daily wear, it can be one and done. There's not much that you can ask for, and you should be able to get that right under 10K. And my advice would be, again, to always see the watch in person, handle it, make sure that it is a solid case that's not over polished. There are a few cheap parlor tricks that we apply for that, from the visuals at least. You look at of course, I don't have the right clasp for that, but in more modern Rolex clasps, the coronet is here, right? If that's brushed down almost completely and fading into nothingness, well, if the bracelet is polished to death like that, what do you expect from the rest of the watch, right? When you get shots of the watch from the side and you have, not in this case, but you have sometimes the luck pins almost protruding outside, chances are those lugs have been shaved down quite a bit from excessive polishing over the years. But none of this is enough, right? You either have to have examined the watch closely, with a loop in hand, ideally, and even a UV light, right, to make sure that that dial is not reloomed or aesthetically enhanced in any way. But another scenario is you deal with an established dealer. Even when you buy online, some of those dealers give you at least 3 days upon delivery, where you can exchange the watch, where you can return the watch, no questions asked, unless you're absolutely happy with it. So that's our utilitarian angle, right? 14060M, you get the most recent movement in that particular line, and you get the best of both worlds. You get certain aspects of the vintage feel. In this case, you really only get the two-liner, no date look. Otherwise, you have Luminova, you have a solid end link bracelet, you have, of course, a sapphire crystal. I would even hesitate to call a watch like that neo-vintage, but at least, yeah, the Hulse case is there. So there's still a few little things that can get even the most cynical vintage watch lover excited about that model. If you want tritium, of course, you can step about 2 years back and get a 14060, and you will have that beautiful contrast of kind of an eggshell off-white coloring on the loom against the black Rolex dial, which is one of the best aesthetic touches about vintage or sports watches for me. Right, Diego, you say this when I wear this tie-dye green hoodie that I just picked up from laundry. So I'm just embarrassed right now, but hey, it's cool. It has some Jean-Michel Basquiat artwork in the back and the front, and it was gifted to me by the one who got away. So I'm very sentimental about it. I love it. It makes me very happy. It kind of makes me sad. But hey, again, tune down the narcissism. We're talking about vintage and new vintage Submariners. That being said, so we talked about 14060. If you're utilitarian, if you like that aesthetic, just go for that. I wouldn't go for the 4-digit 5513 after 1984. And I'll be very honest with this. I know some people love the spider dial, what they call a spider dial, right? When they introduced those glossy dials for the 4-digit, and with the lacquering, there was something about that mix of lacquer that made those dials age, and as they age, crack in ways that created this spider web look on the dial. And that's why I wanted to pull up a picture so you have a clear image now. So you have, to me, look, I understand that some people like this, but if you want already the white gold surrounds around the loom, if you already want a more modern look with the glossy dial, why pay the premium for the 4-digit? Just get the 5-digit. If you like the tritium look, get something that's right before 1998. You get the tritium loom and that particular patina which comes with it. You get the Hulse case, which gives you some sort of modularity, so you are not just stuck to the oyster bracelet, and you can change things on the go very, very quickly. And you don't have to pay the premium for 4-digit. If you want to pay the premium for the 4-digit, go all the way. Go all the way. You can go even all the way to the gilt dials and everything. That's another world. You have to go to the early 60s for that. And prices, as it does with Rolex, jump up exponentially. But if you are going to go with the full digit, go all the way. Go something before 84, 82, and go with a proper matte dial 4-digit, whether it has meters first, feet first, shouldn't really matter ultimately, right? Obviously for the collector it matters. Obviously anything that is limited production for Rolex gains more value in the long term. But ultimately, we are not, I know the people in this community, and most of us don't just buy these things for investment. We are not buying them to put them in a safe deposit box and forget about them. We want to wear them. We want to get some use out of them. And more importantly, we want to have them become meaningful parts of our lives. And in that case, if you really want that aesthetic vintage look, as you can see here, with the chamfers fully intact, look at that beautiful Hulse case, meters first. This watch is just a beauty. And whether it came with the bracelet or not, this gentleman popped it out, put a NATO leather strap on it, and it looks incredible. To me, there's hardly anything in the contemporary Rolex lineup that looks so cool. Again, with all due respect to the current company, and especially those Sea Dweller 43 lovers among us. And I love that watch too. Right. Chili Badger has a focus on an important point here. You have to research even for the dials and bezels. All things being equal, right? Let me just say a few things about what can be a replacement and still be part of a good watch, still be part of a respectable vintage watch, and what really can't be. For example, there are more extremist views on this, but if you ask me, I would rather have a period correct replacement acrylic, plastic, plexiglass, crystal on the watch rather than the original crystal, because you don't want, you don't want that watch to be non-dust proof and non-waterproof completely to the point that it can in fact damage the dial over the years, right? For me, having a replacement crystal, especially if it's period correct, it's absolutely kosher. When it comes to, for example, bezels, right? Of course, the original bracelet, or at least the period correct, original bezel insert or period correct bezel insert is still the best. But everything else being near perfect and in tip-top shape with a watch, can I live with the incorrect bezel inserts? Maybe not an aftermarket one, but a later service bezel insert, I certainly can, right? It's much easier to find the example of a watch that's in perfect condition, has almost a factory finish, and has a service, Rolex service bezel insert. I would take that watch and just continue looking, continue that research that Chili Badger is talking about to find the correct bezel insert for that watch. But yeah, the watch is a cracked crystal. I would rather change it even to sapphire, at least for the time being, until I find the right crystal, to preserve the dial. And that's the most important thing. When it comes to vintage Rolex watches and certain models, the dial sometimes it's not a mere fraction of the price. Sometimes it's a quarter, a third of the price. So service dials, absolute no-no. Even if the package supposedly contains the original dial, unless you really know what you're looking at, really know what you're looking for, I would stray away from those examples as quickly as I can. So the dial above everything, you have to make sure that if you're buying a vintage watch, that it does not have a service dial. And I would be happy to help answer some questions when it comes to specific examples. And Rolleymania has sent me a couple of emails. The very last one I couldn't respond, but I did take a look at that watch, Rolleymania, and so far so good. But I would rather take my time a little more and write up a more proper response to you. Turkey Vulture says, I want a full water damage dial. Hey, certain types of water damage actually looks cool. And again, as long as there are no insane premiums attached to them, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. I would prefer a damaged dial to a service dial on a vintage watch. It is what it is. And sometimes it looks cool. But is it worth the premium that they sometimes add for, like, tropic dials? No, I think that's pure scam. Lance Thruster says heavenly. Yes, the 4-digit vintage Submariner look can't be beaten. Same thing with 1680. I think that's a beautiful watch, red line or not. Again, I can take one for the team and recognize the beauty of that watch, even though it has a date function. Hey, my Submariner never gets the date wrong. I put it on. It's wind and wear, one and done. You don't need much of anything else. Um, can you point, okay, Rolling Mania is a good question again. Can you point to a good reference, book or online, for reference numbers for dials, end links, bezels, bracelets for a certain year? The page I'm looking at right now contains a wealth of resources when it comes to the 4-digit Submariner. Um, it has, in fact, a section that's for gilt and gloss, which is 5512 Submariner. But this particular web page has a lot of different information. I'm just going to put it to the live chat and probably add it to the description as well. But for all the different Rolex models, in a way that it would combine all these things that you're asking for, I don't think there is a single reference book for that, unfortunately. So I would recommend 3621 Rolex watches by Kesaharu, I think, Kesaharu Imai. That is a great reference point for reference numbers, dial variations, bezels as well, of most perfect examples of most of any Rolex model that came about. But it doesn't really have any information or even any visuals of specific bracelet and end links that go with those watches. For that, I can direct you to certain very, very helpful websites, and I can send you those links as well. All right, guys. So if you have any questions, please send them in right now, and I'll try to get this under 30 minutes because I do wanna talk about my absolute fail in what I call mission to San Francisco, where I came back empty-handed. So I'll go jump on that stream after a few minutes. This doesn't have to be exactly 30 minutes. So please do ask your questions and I will respond everything else that's here. Mr. Skydweller, welcome. Welcome. It's nice to see you here. Turkey Vulture, nice open 6 and 9 date wheel. Yes, those 6s and 9s in a lot of vintage date wheels are, of course, not closed, right? So that little gap there with 6 and 9 is very indicative. It's those little details that get you at the end. Rick Foss says, "I've seen some with reloomed hands that don't look good. It ruined my eyes." Yes, that's why, again, two things in hand when you get to examine a watch: a loop and a UV light, right? Just charge it up and see if it's tritium. Maybe it will glimmer, like, for a split second, especially when it's really old. Maybe for a second if it's a little younger, and it will fade away. And that should be more or less even, right, between the hands and the dial. That's another myth, by the way. That is what needs to match, really. The expiration of the loom needs to match with hands and the dial. But when it comes to the whole configuration, it's aesthetically pleasing and it's desirable when they age evenly. But there are a lot of examples where everything is original and things have not aged evenly because they come from different producers, right? When the hands may have turned into a slightly lighter color, whereas the loom on the dial has turned all pumpkin, for example. It happens. When there's a date wheel involved, that's not luminous material, so it may or may not have aged, may have aged in a way that reflects what was going on the date and on the hands in terms of the tritium, or not, right? So I am usually more worried where everything is matching so perfectly. I feel there's some manipulation. I feel that there's something that has been altered, or that has been manicured, or that has been made up a certain way. Big Meech, Lord, this day and age, would you recommend rookies buy? I love when we have nice super chats, because one, you see again, I show my real character. I just turned into a unibrow when I answered these. Would you recommend rookies buy vintage watches, or would you say buy modern before sliding into the world of vintage? Simple answer. I will go in depth in a second. Buy what you want, right? Don't feel like you have to buy modern if you don't like modern. Don't feel like you have to buy vintage if you don't like vintage. Those who want to buy vintage, I agree with your general sentiment this day and age, right? It's becoming harder and harder, and it's becoming more and more of an investment, in the sense that you have to put a lot of money down to get good examples of vintage watches. That's why I have this channel. I want to help you, right? Don't just despair because you don't know what to look for at this day and age, because you don't feel informed enough. I'll try to help guide you through the process if you ask for my help specifically. And when someone asks for my help with specific questions, I try to address them in the broadest way possible. So if someone else watches these live streams, they can learn something from it too. They can take something from it too. So that's why my channel exists. It's some sort of an effort in consumer advocacy. And I don't think you should shy away, but take your time, right? If you're attracted to vintage watches, but you feel you're not ready to plunk down so much cash for what to you seems, as of yet, a lesser model, lesser iteration of the contemporary line, don't do it just yet, right? Continue learning, and maybe you will find what you're looking for. Maybe you will find what attracts you. Maybe you'll figure out it's not for you. But in either case, if you have any specific questions, send me an email, and you still have 4 days when it is absolutely free. Is it easy to have a riveted or press link bracelet resized? Absolutely. If you take it to a professional, it doesn't make a difference. Jamie, thank you so much for the kind words. Chunkster, hey, very committed fan of this channel. Thank you for being here, Chunkster. Any vintage dealers you trust? I have many. Some of them, they have all different specialities. A lot of them come with a very fat premium, so I don't usually deal with them myself. But I can direct you to the nice person. As always, I would start with the brand and model first, and then I can direct you to someone. I think that's always fair, because there are hardly any vintage dealers, especially today, who know everything about all brands and all models, and who can supply you with just about anything. No, they all have their specialties. So send me an email with a specific question, and I will try to direct you to that sort of dealer. Jamie Opulence, is 2006 considered vintage? No, some might call it neo vintage. I think even for neo vintage, I would say 2000 and before. But yes, I would not say vintage, because technically, if we are gonna talk semantics, it needs to be at least 20-year-old to be considered vintage. But more importantly, 2006 is just pre-ceramic. That's what I would call it in the Rolex world. I wouldn't call it vintage because, you know, it has a sapphire crystal. It has, I think by then, super luminova on the dial and the hands. It has a no holes case, solid ending bracelet. You know, that's a modern watch. That's a contemporary watch. Adding links to my 60s USA oval link Jubilee. Oh my God, absolute. That's true. Yeah, vintage Jubilee bracelets can be a pain. But with resizing, I mostly thought of removing. Anyway, I wouldn't try a lot of these things at home anyways. You have the additional links, you have a full bracelet, take it to a professional, pay them a little bit of money. I don't know, get them a pack of cigarettes, a decent bottle of whiskey, a nice cigar, and they'll do it for you. They'll do it for you. It's a pleasure for most watchmenders, most watchmakers to deal with vintage watches. It's their passion, right? You know, it's not about the money. It's about passion. So it is what it is. Just take it to them for the most part. I would not deal with resizing a bracelet myself, especially if it involves adding links. Forget about the vintage watches, not even with contemporary stuff. Oh, jewelers on time, simply the best. See, Joy and I, we communicate on the same frequency. Jamie, very nice to see you here, man. Thank you for the support. Turkey Vulture, yeah, neo vintage is 20 years and onwards. Jamie has it down there. All right, guys. So I'll close it here and open that next live stream right away. So let me send you a link, and if you would like to follow me there, you are more than welcome. I just want to talk about my absolute and utter failure of getting anything right about my San Francisco trip to get my piece from this Omega Swatch collaboration. My unsuccessful attempt of securing one of those moon swatches. So I will switch to that. If you have any questions or if you want to support the channel some way, all the information is down there. lordhellespontv@gmail.com. Email me if you feel generous. PayPal me, and the Cash App is $LHVVV. I really appreciate you all. Hope to see you on the other side. Peace. I will be right back in 2 minutes. Goodbye, guys.